I took no notes this week, Kitty.
Okay, that means it was perfect and you had no feelings. Wait, no, that doesn't make sense. It means it wasn't perfect. It means you didn't care about it. Dorkus.
No, of course I cared.
Okay.
It's just been busy.
No, it means we're not front loading.
Yes, okay. Front load. Let's go.
Yeah.
No resolution on the Zane is the brother thing yet. Very nervous. That's never
Yeah.
gonna be addressed in a more meaningful way.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is true. We're still waiting on that. Okay, my main thing is I really didn't think Tindwyl was gonna turn. How?
Yeah.
I suppose it makes sense. She doesn't want to leave Sarzed behind.
Yeah.
But
So
that was a kind of shock to me suddenly because she seemed on board with everything before.
well, that's just it. I had presumed the last several chapters that she had more or less agreed to Sazed's plan, which is why it came as such a surprise.
Yes.
At the same time, I think what she says and does in this chapter is in line with her character as well. I think she's absolutely right to call out Elend, being like, you look like you're abandoning your people. I approve because I agree, of course, so I have a bias here. But I did imagine a very sweet scene between Tindwyl and Sazed where she's like, I'm not leaving you. We're in this together now.
Yeah. Yeah, and there was no it's kind of like I know I assumed that she was okay with it because we didn't get a scene where she did that. So I definitely assumed she would be in on it. The book itself did not say that. And then she flipped. So yeah, that was an incorrect way of referring to it. It was just it makes sense. It absolutely does. But I was shocked by it because I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. I suppose she didn't say that she was okay with any of this. And we do need somebody telling Elend you are abandoning your people. And we can talk about how that seems to be kind of remedied by Vin when we get into it. Yeah.
Yes. And then we get an answer to the mystery we didn't even know we had with Straff.
Yes. That was a nice reveal. How did you not have notes?
Right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. The reveal there was quite interesting, but now I'm like, but I don't want him to die.
Well,
Yet I don't want him to be dying.
well, now I imagine it's going to be one of those things where Straff is going to get everything that he wants, but it cripples him and he just becomes the shell of a man. It's Palpatine after he becomes successful and then he becomes this withered, ugly, gray thing, which I don't disapprove of. It's textbook.
Yeah. Yeah, I enjoy that. Right. What else? Yeah, I think we're good.
Let's get into it then, shall we?
Oh wait, no, wait, hello, Alrion.
Oh, right. She's deceptive seeming.
What the hell? Yeah. Where's she going?
Okay, so my prediction now is that Set, look for me on the third day. Set will be coming back to rescue Breeze based off of Alrion prodding him too. That's my prediction.
Okay. Do I have to put that in the prediction log? Is that how predictive?
No, it's a soft prediction, not a hard prediction.
Okay.
Only hard predictions go in the log.
In the log, yes. Oops. Right.
Hello and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. For this particular series, I am joined by my wonderful co-host, That Darn Kitty.
Dorkus and I are both going into the story completely new with almost no knowledge of the story or world.
Each segment, we intend to cover what happens in each new chapter and discuss our experience along the way.
Hold on to your butts, because this is Ascension Unleashed, a blind read-through, and today we will be covering Chapter 49!
Chapter 49! Part 5, Snow and Ash. He is accustomed to giving up his own will for the greater good, as he sees it.
This, for me, just was Elend. Makes sense. Elend is going out kind of looking bad, but it's for the greater good. He thinks he's going to save the city, save the people in the end. So that's why he's doing it.
Yes, although I don't think in this chapter, Elend is making a moral compromise, and I feel like Kwan has led us to believe that Elendi does make moral
Mm,
compromises
true.
for the greater good. I will let
Mm,
10 people die for saving 1,000 people, kind of a thing,
mm.
which
Yeah,
I,
that kind of difficulty. Yeah.
yeah. But it does connect, as you've pointed out in this chapter, to he's, he's doing something hopefully for the greater good.
Mhm.
And I'm sure he would prefer not to have to go if he could help it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he seems fully convinced that he would be more effective elsewhere. This is a better plan than him staying and dying.
Yes, even though he's kind of been misled by Sazed, I guess.
Yeah, but he's misled, but he's convinced.
True. The heart
Mm.
is still in the
But he
right place.
Yeah, but he still he's not sure. He not doesn't know all of this stuff is gonna work out, but he just hopes, and it's something more than just sitting and hoping that you don't die.
Yeah.
So he's yeah, he it's that's why you don't feel like he's making a huge moral compromise here. He is actually he's doing something that makes sense.
Yeah.
You are a fool, Ellen Venture.
Tindwell snapped, arms folded, eyes wide with displeasure. Elend pulled a strap tight on his saddle. Part of the wardrobe Tindwell had made for him included a black and silver riding uniform with a dark cloak to keep off the ash, and he wore these now, fingers snug within the leather gloves.
Are you listening to me? You can't leave. Not now. Not when your people are in such danger.
I'll protect them in another way, he said, checking on the pack horse. So, right off the bat, we realize that
Mhm.
Tindwell is very against this idea of him leaving.
Mhm.
So there's processing that shock we discussed in the front loading of,
Mhm.
wait, she wasn't part of this plan?
Yeah, she wasn't the whole time. She's actually completely against it. Okay. And we do have a very simple way to that Ellen shows his state of mind where he says, I'll protect them in another way. That's why he's leaving. He has to believe that. He has to believe he's protecting them in another way. Otherwise he would not leave.
Mm-hmm.
He's not leaving to run away. Absolutely not. We know that. Yes, he wants to spend time with Vin, and there is that kind of part of it. But the most part is he needs to protect the people, and this is the best way he can think of at the moment.
Yeah. They were in the keep's coach portico used for arrivals and departures. Vin sat on her own horse, enveloped almost completely in her cloak, hands holding her reins tensely. She had very little experience riding, but Elend refused to let her run. Pewter or no pewter, the wounds from her fight at the assembly still hadn't healed completely, not to mention the damage she'd taken the night before. And I had read that and thought to myself, man, they really maybe should have stayed another day or two.
But we don't know how much time they would have had.
That's
They
true.
really can't. They just it's very tense in the city at that point. So they could have if they stayed a certain like a bit more time, they could have been trapped. So they had to go while they could.
Yeah.
But they don't have the luxury. And yeah, I was like, oopsie, I completely forgot about Vin's fight at the assembly. Really, I've because I guess I got it from her. You know, the fact that she kind of got over it, and she went and did the set thing. That I kind of had her at full health at that point.
Me
Well,
too.
like, not
And
as bad.
yeah, me too. And it brings to mind a concern. It's good to acknowledge the wounds, but you also have to
Mhm.
suffer the consequences of the wounds. So I hope that Sanderson isn't just reminding us here that she's been wounded, but that it will come back to bite her in some small way. It doesn't have to make her like totally incapable of doing anything, but I do hope at
Yeah,
some point she will push herself a little too hard or something to that effect.
yeah. It seems like he's signaling towards that happening.
Yeah.
So that's what that line is supposed to do.
It's a fine line to walk. It really is.
Mhm. Another way? You should be with them. You're their king.
No, I'm not. They rejected me, Tyndwell. Now I have to worry about more important events on a larger stage. They wanted a traditional king? Well, let them have my father. When I return from Terrace, perhaps they will have realized what they lost. Ellen's a bit snappy there.
Yeah, it makes sense, and we do need a bit of his emotion to come out. He does have that feeling like, they did reject me and that sort of stuff. Yes, he's over it, but that still happened. Those emotions were still there. So it makes sense that he would refer to them. Be like, yeah, well, they rejected me. Okay. And he's going to use them. He's going to reach out to that fact when he's arguing with Tyndall. So I see it. And I appreciate it.
Yeah? Tyndwell shook her head and stepped forward, speaking in a quiet voice.
Terrace, Elend, you go north for her. You know why she wants to go there, don't you?
He hesitated.
Ah, so you do know. What do you think of it, Elend? Don't tell me you believe these delusions. She thinks she's the hero of ages. She supposes that she'll find something in the mountains up there. Some power, or perhaps some revelation, that will transform her into a divinity.
Elend glanced at Vin. She looked at the ground, hood down, still sitting quietly on her horse.
She's trying to follow her master, Elend. The survivor became a god to these people, so she thinks she has to do the same. I don't think that's fair.
Yeah, I was with her up until that last line.
Hmm. Like I guess it's her opinion coming to the fore. She's her feelings. She's going into them, so it's not making all the sense. But yeah, I just don't agree with her. And yes, it made me go, oh crap, yes, that is what Vin believes. The fact that she has to go, if she thinks she's the hero of ages, that is what she believes is going to happen to her. But I think as a character, she isn't focused on that. She's just focused on she needs to do something and she needs to save people. It's not about her. That's why I needed that reminder, because Vin is not thinking about becoming a divinity. She's not thinking about that. She's thinking about saving the world.
Yeah, and the
Or
pounding that's
yeah.
becoming incessant to her.
Yeah,
The
exactly. So it's not about her going, "Oh, I want to be a divinity," which is, I think Tyndall's being very she's not being charitable at all.
Yeah. Now I will say, Sazed has kind of presumed she might be, and I think he
Mm.
presumed Elend might be as well. But
Mhm.
Vin going around telling people she's the hero of ages strikes me as doing away with the whole announcer portion of the prophecy.
Mhm.
If Vin were to believe this, it's like, well, that doesn't quite fit because it presumably the prophecy doesn't say the hero of ages will name herself. It's that the hero of ages is announced. Someone will,
Mhm.
voice the coming of. So
Mhm.
I think that's a point in favor of our theory that it's not Vin.
Yeah, because nobody's announcing her really. They're kind of suspecting her, if we're gonna think of Sazed, but
Hmm.
they're not announcing her. They're not sure. It's just a hunch. And basically, the main thing that Sazed wants is just to save them. He's not. He
Yeah.
doesn't seem to consider. Like again, I was like, hello, the thumping. The fact that she can sense this is a really big deal. But I understand they just don't have time to consider that. What that means. It's just get them out of the city. And like it's basically, yeah, get them out of the blast radius, and then sure, you guys go and try and save the world. you know
Yeah.
but yeah, bad Tyndall. No, you're just being giving an emotional argument and being suspicious, and yeah.
Yeah, stick with the argument that Elend needs to martyr himself for the longevity
Yes.
of the kingdom.
Mm.
Elend turned to Tyndwell. If that is what she truly believes, then I support her.
You support madness?
Do not speak of my wife in that manner, Elend said, his commanding tone causing Tyndwell to flinch. He swung up into.
Yes. I'm glad she flinched. You don't talk crap.
Yeah, and that means Elend is serious. Very,
Mm-hmm.
very serious about this.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Ellen's too simpy?
I guess that can be a criticism. I understand. Don't talk about my wife. I support her. All of that stuff. I
I
do think he shows enough. He shows enough, doubt. But he's like the doubt is not going to make me change my mind.
Yeah, forgive me. I think simpy might not be the right word for the essence that I'm trying to convey here, but I'm just a little bit frustrated, I think, with Ellen's inability to disapprove of anything about Vin.
Hmm.
I'm still waiting for the moment that Ellen becomes meaningfully frustrated with Vin for not communicating with him. Like
Yes.
it's okay, Ellen, to be frustrated with her from time to time. It's okay to represent yourself. You can
Hmm.
do that and still love and support her.
Yes, you don't just have to go immediately. Look, the thing is with this, it's a big deal. It's a big decision. He has to say he supports her and things like that.
Yes,
So
particularly in
when it comes
public.
to this, yes. Yeah, in public especially. But it is true. We do need that facet of their relationship to occur. We need the reality to come through. They need to go through this idea of where you can criticize each other and build each other up. You don't have to criticize each other and bring each other down, but you do need to be honest with each other. You can't just say, "Oh, you're perfect, my queen, my queen, my queen." You can't do that. No, that's
Yeah.
not healthy.
Yeah. And
It's not real.
I want
Mm.
a bit more dimension from Ellen, I think.
Yeah, I hope it will. It seems like it will come. I just expect that because it would be good writing.
Yeah.
But it's not here yet. That's all I know, is that it's
Yeah.
not here yet, but he does show a little bit of doubt, and we'll get to it in a few paragraphs. Like,
Yes.
he shows a little bit, but he's like, "You know what? It's still not going to make me change my mind, so I might as well just perform this. I might as well fight." And that's what happens. You can have doubts privately, but then publicly, it's a different story.
Yeah. Do not speak of my wife in that manner, Ellen said, his commanding tone causing Tyndwell to flinch. He swung up into his saddle. I trust her, Tyndwell.
You can't possibly believe that she is some prophesied Messiah, Ellen. I know you. You're a scholar. You may have professed allegiance to the Church of the Survivor, but you don't believe in the supernatural any more than I do.
Support for my Quan theory?
What, that yes, that he made it up, or what? Yes.
Yeah. Quan is a
Oh,
scholar, so he never believed in the hero of ages,
hmm.
therefore,
But yeah, he knew its utility, though.
yeah. I believe, he said firmly, that Vin is my wife and that I love her. Anything important to her is important to me, and anything she believes has at least that much weight of truth to me. We are going north. We will return once we've released the power there.
Fine. Then you will be remembered as a coward who abandoned his people.
Thank you, Tyndwell.
Yeah, that's the whole point. You need this. You need this pushback, and you need Ellen to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I do now want him to go. It would be useless. Okay, I know that it would make sense. Cool, he's a martyr, whatever. But he can do more good by being with Vin. And if he's the hero of ages, we need him out of the city, and he is more of a candidate than Vin.
Look, Elend, I
So,
mean, yeah, Elend is more of a candidate to the hero of ages than Vin is, I agree, but Ellen's primary role here will be as the face of the party, the charisma character, because it's his earnestness that's going to win over folks, because Vin cannot
mhm.
diplomacy to save her life.
No, that's not her thing. Although she did pretty well. She does pretty well coming up, but not diplomacy wise, but just leader wise. But here, okay, so there you've got quite a lot of the what we are talking about in Elend, the way he's like, I love my wife, and what she believes is truth. I, I, I just think it's convenient, Ellen. I think if it was something else, I don't think you would support her as much. I think that this is just a convenient support that you can have because you want to save the people. You've been convinced it's good for the people as well. It's not so much Vin, I think. Like you said, he's been misled by Sazed and all of that. It's not just Vin wants to go, I must follow her. he's acting like he's saying it as if that's it. Vin believes this, so I must go. But he believes that there is some power. That's what he believes. It's not, oh, I'm believing Vin and I'm running after her. So I wonder if, yeah, he's just used that against Tindwall.
Yeah.
Fine. Then he will be remembered as a coward who abandoned his people.
Leave us, Elend ordered, raising his finger and pointing toward the keep. Tindwell spun, stalking toward the doorway. As she passed it, she pointed at the supply table where she had previously placed a book-sized package wrapped in brown paper tied with a thick string.
Sazed wishes you to deliver this to the Keeper Synod. You'll find them in the city of Tathingdwin. Enjoy your exile, Ellen Venture.
Then she left. Ooh, cold.
Here, just take my book, okay, and leave.
And it's a little surprising to me that she'd be willing to part with it. Like, part of the reason why
Yeah.
I had presumed that Tindwell was on board is because she would have thought something to the effect of, these copies can never leave our sights.
Yeah. But that's just testimony to how much she cares about Sazed. She
Yeah.
would rather stay with him and just be like, cool. And she knew that Elend was gonna leave anyway. Like, she's arguing with him, but she wants him to know that she didn't like the idea. But she still packed and said, take this, you gotta take this to the thing. Yes, she says it's Sazed who wants that. But she still told them where they gotta go and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, like, there was supposed to be a transfer of knowledge. That now they've just only got a book. So is that the only thing that they need to transfer? Okay.
Well, I'm imagining it includes the metal sheet and Sazed and Tindwell's
Yeah, true.
notes about the metal
Extra.
sheet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you think the Fellowship of the Mist will be opening and reading the book on their way to Tathingdwen?
Nah, I don't think they'll open it. I don't. I don't think it's. I think they need to guard that with their lives and not open it.
Hmm.
But they haven't been told not to. Maybe Vin will, because we need Vin to understand what's going on.
Yeah. Ellen sighed, leading his horse over beside Vin's.
Thank you
For what?
for what you said.
I meant it, Vin, Ellen said, reaching over to lay a hand on her shoulder.
Tyndall might be right, Despite what Sazed said, I could be mad. Do you remember when I told you that I'd seen a spirit in the mists?
Ellen nodded slowly.
He forgot! Well, I've seen it again. It's like a ghost formed from the patterns in the mist. I see it all the time, watching me, following me. And I hear those rhythms in my head. Majestic, powerful thumpings, like allomantic pulses. Only I don't need bronze anymore to hear them. That's new.
That is new and very interesting, and gives us some insight perhaps to Alendi, who may or may not have been an Allomancer, but I am guessing wasn't.
Yeah, he just only heard it when he was
Close.
he would just not have heard it as soon as Vin.
Yeah. Ellen squeezed her shoulder. I believe you, Vin. She looked up, reserved.
Do you, Elend? Do you really?
I'm not sure, he admitted, but I'm trying very hard to. Either way, I think going north is the right thing to do. So
That's where I'm at with it. That's where I think Elend is. He's like, I don't know, but this is the best thing I can do.
yeah, I don't need the two of them to fight, but I fear that
Mm-mm.
this will be like the closest thing to them disagreeing that we might ever get, at least for a long time. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. For a while, but they do need to argue, okay? Because that's part of life.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to fight, but you do need to argue and disagree.
Yeah. She nodded slowly.
That's enough, I think.
He smiled, turning back to the doorway. Where is Spook? Vin shrugged beneath her cloak.
I assume Tyndall won't be coming with us then.
Probably not, Ellen said, smiling.
How will we find our way to Terrace?
It won't be hard. We'll simply follow the Imperial Canal to Tathingdwen. He thought about the map Sazed had given them. It led straight into the Terrace Mountains. They'd have to get supplies in Tathingdwen, and the snows would be high, but, well, that was a problem for another time. So, it sounds like it's a straight enough route.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Are any of them going to bring up the fact that Alendi, Royal Alendi, needed Terrace guides and not just supplies, but Terrace guides? Because
Yeah, I
I,
think they'll get to that point.
yeah.
But we don't need Sazed saying that. We don't need anyone giving them any reason to worry about what they're going to do. He wants them out of the city, so he's got to say it's going to be super easy, barely an inconvenience, and just go on. Just go straight out of the city, and you'll find where I need you to go, which is just be away from the city. But he
Right.
does still need that knowledge to go to the synod.
Yes. So at least there's that. But what happens when they get super far into the mountains, into the random place that Sazed has sent them, and they're like, "We're here,
They
but
just
there's
die
nothing here. Let's keep." Yeah, they just die. Like we have to keep
of
looking, but our
exposure.
supplies are low. But we have to keep looking. Just one more day, and then it becomes a very
Oh.
different kind of story.
Yeah, and he sent them to their deaths.
Oh, poor Sazed.
No, if Sazed was smart enough, he shouldn't have sent them like to a huge high peak. It's like
Yeah.
he's hoping that at the town they'll be stopped.
No, the Fellowship of the Mist will die in the mountains. The crew will die at Luthadel, and then the whole story
The end.
becomes about Straff's battle with addiction.
There you
That's
go.
that's what the hero of ages is.
You know what? That's what Hollywood would do with the story. Who knows?
Vin smiled, and Ellen walked over to pick up the package Tyndall had left. It appeared to be a book of some sort. A few moments later, Spook arrived. He wore his soldier's uniform and had saddlebags slung over his shoulder. He nodded to Ellen, handed Vin a large bag, then moved to his own horse. He looks nervous, Ellen thought as the boy slung his bags over his horse. What's in the bag? He asked, turning to Vin.
Pewter dust. I think we might need it.
Not a bad plan. Probably useful. I hope they
Mm.
brought plenty of metal. What do you think Spook is looking nervous over? I don't think we get an answer to that, do we?
Maybe he's just nervous on how we're getting out.
Hmm.
He knows that we might need the pewter dust, so he's like, okay, getting out is not going to be easy. So he's nervous about that. Or yeah, also the thing of "Ugh, I'm gonna have to be the third wheel with these two.
Fair. And start of a new journey.
Mm, all of that, and he's like, fine, okay, so I've been ordered to do this.
Or he doesn't want to leave his uncle.
Yeah, all of that.
Are we ready? Spook asked, looking over at them. Ellen glanced at Vin, who nodded. I guess we...
Not quite yet.
A new voice said.
I'm not ready at all.
Ellen turned as Alrion swept into the portico. She wore a rich brown and red riding skirt and had her hair tied up beneath a scarf. Where'd she get that outfit? Ellen wondered. Two servants followed her, bearing bundles. So I imagined her looking not unlike Little Red Riding Hood if she were dressed for
Yes,
winter.
but I think she is still looking fabulous though, and red. Like, okay, that's quite visible, but okay. Maybe that's yeah. If she's going to set, she needs to be like, listen, I'm not an enemy, so look at me, see me. Okay, I'm not set. Yeah, set's still alive. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Alrion tapped her lip with a thoughtful expression.
I think I'm going to need a pack horse. What are you doing?
Vin demanded.
Going with you. Breezy says I have to leave the city. He's a very silly man sometimes, but he can be quite stubborn. He spent the entire conversation soothing me, as if I couldn't recognize his touch by now.
Alrion waved to one of the servants who ran to get a stable hand. We're going to be riding very hard. I'm not sure if you'll be able to keep up, Ellen said. Alrion rolled her eyes.
I rode all the way out here from Western Dominance. I think I can manage. Besides, Vin is hurt. You probably won't be going that fast. We don't want you along. We don't trust you, and we don't like you.
Ellen closed his
She
eyes. Dear blunt Vin. And I appreciated the bluntness.
I appreciated the bluntness, but I was like, Vin, you're speaking for everyone, okay? We don't like you. I'm sure that Spook very much likes her.
Probably. Although I think he respects that it's her and Breeze. I hope he respects that. Alrion twittered a laugh as the servant returned with 2 horses, then began to load one.
Silly Vin. How can you say that after all we've shared? Shared? Orion, we went shopping together one time. And I felt we bonded quite well. Why, we're practically sisters.
Vin gave the girl a flat stare.
Yes. And you're definitely the older, boring sister.
I thought this was a very funny exchange.
Yes, and I got very excited. I was like, this is going to be very entertaining going forward. Well, I was disabused of that notion.
Yeah, I was so disappointed because I was looking forward to the straight woman, comedic woman bit.
Yeah. You had said like, oh, when we were talking about who goes with and Orion, you predicted Orion would go with all of that. So I was ready for it. Damn it.
She smiled sweetly, then swung easily up into her saddle, suggesting considerable horsemanship. And that's the first sign of
Hmm.
she's hiding skills.
Yes, she's been definitely just been like, no, 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 look at me. I'm just a fluttery little girl, but also not really.
Yeah. One of the servants led her pack horse over, then tied the reins into place behind Alrion's saddle.
All right, Ellen dear. I'm ready. Let's go.
Ellen glanced at Vin, who shook her head with a dark look.
You can leave me behind if you wish, but I'll just follow and get into trouble. And then you'll have to come save me. And don't even try and pretend that you wouldn't.
Ellen sighed. Very well. Let's go.
This is very cute of Ella Alrian. It's very endearing. It's like, listen, you guys were gonna save me anyway, so just shut up and let's go.
True. They made their way slowly through the city, Ellen and Vin at the lead, Spook bringing their pack horses, Ulrion riding to the side. Ellen kept his head up, but that only let him see the faces that poked out of windows and doorways as he passed. Soon, a small crowd was trailing them, and while he couldn't hear their whispers, he could imagine what they were saying. The king is abandoning us. He knew that many of them still couldn't understand that Lord Penrod held the throne. Ellen glanced away from an alleyway where he saw many eyes watching him. There was a haunted fear in those eyes. He had expected to see accusations, but their despondent acceptance was even more disheartening. They expected him to flee. They expected to be abandoned. He was one of the few rich enough and powerful enough to get away. Of course he'd run. I'm glad he's thinking these things, because
Hmm.
this is the concern I would have wanted when he was contemplating leaving in the first place.
Hmm. Yeah, he knew. Well, I think that was still there. That was there at the. But he was thinking about where he needs about the end goal, about saving them.
Yes.
That's where what was mostly in his mind. But now that he's doing it, he's got to deal with those emotions. He's got to deal with the fact that they are going to perceive him as abandoning them. As much as he is actually going to go and save them, they're going to perceive it as abandonment. And I thought it quite interesting that he sees their resignation in them. That they're just like, yeah, well, of course you're going to abandon me, which is actually kind of the same sort of dynamic that Vin had in the beginning when she was still learning to be loved. She absolutely expected people to just abandon her.
Yeah.
So the people of the city are basically like that. They're just like, oh, I expect this. Of course you're going to do that.
He squeezed his own eyes shut, trying to force down his guilt. He wished that they could have left at night, sneaking out the pass wall as Ham's family had, but it was important that Straff saw Elend and Vin leaving, so that he understood he could take the city without attacking. I'll be back, Elend promised the people. I'll save you. For now, it's better if I leave. The broad doors of Tingate appeared in front of them. Elend kicked his horse forward, speeding ahead of his silent wave of followers. The guards at the gate already had their orders. Elend gave them a nod, reining in his horse, and the men swung the doors open. Vin and the others joined him before the portal. Lady Air, one of the guards asked quietly. Are you leaving too? Vin looked to the side.
Peace. We're not abandoning you. We're going for help.
The soldier smiled. How can he trust her so easily, Ellen thought. Or is hope all he has left? We haven't spoken for a while. Let's speak. Very good inner turmoil from Ellen here. I'm really enjoying it. It's well
Mm-hmm.
written. No complaints.
It makes his leaving earned. It it this has to be difficult enough. It can't just be super easy.
Yeah. Vin turned her horse around, facing the crowd of people, and she lowered her hood.
We will return.
She promised. She didn't seem as nervous as she had before when dealing with people who revered her. Ever since last night, something has changed in her, Ellen thought. So what did you think of Vin addressing the crowd like this?
I was actually really happy she did. The crowd, actually, it's good that she's doing it. She is leaving with Ellen, so also that makes them her addressing them. Let me start again. Her addressing them does give them hope, and it does change the meaning of what Ellen is doing. So Ellen is leaving with Lady Air to go and get help. That is a lot better than Ellen is running off with his girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that she gives them hope, and the Lady Air also, the fact is she has that sway in the city. It's good that she's the one that's talking. And you know what, Ellen thought this. He thought, I'm going to save you. I'll come back. But she says this. But then, yes, I did go, ooh, is that a good thing to let people know that you're coming back?
Yeah, because it seems to
Yeah.
undermine. It's different coming from Vin than it is from Elend,
Mm-hmm.
but it does seem
Mm-hmm.
to undermine the whole we're leaving so that Straff knows we're leaving so that he knows we won't
Mm-hmm.
oppose him. Kind of an
Yeah.
idea.
But at the same time, them leaving is still Straff could be like, yeah, okay, so they're gonna try and come back.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna run away on the off chance that they do come back. I'm going to take the city while I can. So even if there is this rumor amongst the people, he doesn't give a shit about the people.
true.
Yeah, this rumor amongst the people that the Lady Air is going to return one day and all of that. He would rather have the city. It's easier to capture the city and keep it with them gone, and he can defend against them when they decide to come back, if they do.
Yeah,
So it's not that much of a problem.
yeah. The soldier smiled. How can he trust her so easily? Or is hope all he has left? A very Kelsier religion thing as well.
Hmm.
Hope. As a group, the soldiers saluted them. Ellen saluted back, then he nodded to Vin. He led the way as they galloped out the gates, angling toward the northern highway, a path that would allow them to skirt west of Straff's army. They hadn't gone far before a group of horsemen moved to intercept them. Ellen rode low on his horse, sparing a glance for Spook and the pack horses. What caught Ellen's attention was Alrion. She rode with amazing proficiency, a look of determination on her face. She didn't seem the least bit nervous.
Yeah, she is not. She's not this flirty girl that she's put on there. So we've got another one
Yep,
that's done this.
yep.
She's just let you lean into that, and she's like, "Yeah, sure, sure. I'm a damsel," and then boom, riding like the wind.
To the side, Vin whipped her cloak back, bringing out a handful of coins. She flung them into the air, and they shot forward with a speed Ellen had never seen, even from other Allomancers. Lord Ruler, he thought with shock as the coins zipped away, disappearing faster than he could track. You think that was Duralumin enhanced?
I don't know. It seems like it when you're saying it's faster than other elementers.
Yeah.
They're bullets. Yeah.
Soldiers fell, and Elend barely heard the plinging of metal against metal over the sound of wind and hoofbeats. He rode directly through the center of the chaotic group of men, many of them down and dying. Arrows began to fall, but Vin scattered these without even waving a hand. She had opened the bag of pewter, he noticed, and was releasing the dust in a shower behind her as she rode, pushing some of it to the sides. The next arrows won't have metal heads, Elend thought nervously. Soldiers were forming up behind, shouting.
I'll catch up.
Vin said, then jumped off her horse. Vin! Elend yelled, turning his beast. Orion and Spook shot past him, riding hard. Vin landed and amazingly didn't even stumble as she began to run. She downed a vial of metal, then looked toward the archers. Yeah, if she downed the metal, then yeah, she burnt duralumin
Mhm.
earlier.
Mhm. Yeah. She needs new stuff. And Ellen, you're being a liability. Just listen to her, okay?
Yeah, trust
You're not
her.
gonna help. Yeah,
All
trust
this
her.
talk
She's
of
she's the battle
trust.
expert here. Yeah. Yeah. Just don't get in her way. And what do you think she's doing with the pewter dust, love?
Yeah,
Oh, the next round's not gonna have metal arrows. Yes. What's the pewter dust for? Like, I guess you're in the moment. You're not gonna be like, "Oh, Vin's such a superhero. I'm good." But yeah, he is a bit slow on the uptake.
Alrion and Spook understood the assignment.
Yes, they're like, "Run, Vin will deal." Like, I guess they understand they can't do anything. So whatever
Mhm.
Vin's plan is has to work.
Arrows flew. Elend cursed but kicked his horse into motion. There was little he could do now. He rode low, galloping as the arrows fell around him. One passed within inches of his head, falling to stick into the road, and then they stopped falling. He glanced backward, teeth gritted. Vin stood before a rising cloud of dust. The pewter dust. She's pushing on it, pushing the flakes along the ground, stirring up the dust and ash. A massive wave of dust, metal, and ash slammed into the archers, washing over them. It blew around the soldiers, making them curse and shield their eyes, and some fell to the ground, holding their faces. Neat use of allomancy I don't think we've seen before.
Yeah, very cool, but seems to be a thing that it's not like she's the first person to do it. It's just that
Yeah,
Mistborn can do this, and the pushers or whatever can do this. So
yeah.
it works.
Vin swung back onto her horse, then galloped away from the billowing mass of wind-borne particles. Elend slowed his horse, letting her catch up. The army was in chaos behind them, men giving orders, people scattering.
Speed up!
Vin said as she approached.
We're almost out of bowshot.
Soon they joined Alrion and Spook. We aren't out of danger. My father could still decide to send pursuit. But the soldiers couldn't have mistaken Vin. If Ellen's instincts were right, Straff would let them run. His prime target was Luthadel. He could go after Elend later. For now, he would simply be happy to see Vin leave.
Yeah, that was my instinct.
Yep,
That's where it is. Thank you kindly for helping me get out.
Alrion suddenly said, watching the army.
I'll be going now.
With that, she veered her two horses away, angling toward a group of low hills to the west. What? Elend asked with surprise, pulling up next to Spook.
Leave her. We don't have time.
Well, that solves one problem, Elend thought, turning his horse to the northern highway. Farewell, Luthadel. I'll be back for you later. So, Alrion just goes off, and of course Vin is like, yeah, I'm okay with this.
Yeah, that's fine. And when he said that solves a problem, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what this means. Okay, so like we don't know what Alrian's plan is and what her loyalties are. So she's gone. Where does she go? She goes
To the west, presumably where Set
to the west.
is.
Yeah. So what is she going to do? Bring Set back, or just go and be with Set? Like, is she just going home to be with Set?
If she is earnest in loving Breeze, and I think she is, I think that
Hmm.
she will try to convince Set to turn the armies back and stop Straff after, whatever happens.
Yeah. I don't think she's off to just go and live happily ever after, though. That's
Yeah,
the thing, is she's not solved. Okay, she is coming back at a later stage.
yeah,
And that's not a problem that is solved yet. We don't know.
yeah.
So this whole that solves a problem thing. Mm-mm. And I love the way that
Well,
it's done in the prose, yeah, because we've got that solves one problem, and then yeah.
from Ellen's perspective, I think he thinks that Alrion coming with them is problematic, presumably because she's a
Yeah.
courtly puff who doesn't get along with Vin. So her leaving is like, great, I don't have to deal with that right now. We can travel at
Yeah.
peace.
I don't have to deal with Vin being catty to Alrion and Alrion being catty to them. So yes, and I also don't have to deal, even though it seems like she's actually pretty tough. So she wouldn't actually have been as much of a problem traveling. It would just be the dynamic that would be the
Yeah,
problem.
yeah. Well, that solves one problem, Breeze noted, standing atop the city wall and watching Ellen's group disappear around a hillside. To the east, a large and still unexplained pillar of smoke rose from the Kolos camp. To the north, Straff's army was buzzing about, stirred by the escape. What do you think this fire is?
I don't know.
I don't think it's good.
It has just no. It's nothing good. Is just as like they don't burn their dead, the Kolos. So what do they burn? Did they burn his camp?
That's what I'm
But
thinking.
we've got an idea though. It's more. They give us a bit of more information about what it looks like, whether it's big or not. But yeah, Justice was not exactly doing well in the first place. So
Yeah. At first, Breeze had worried about Alrion's safety, but then he'd realized that, enemy army notwithstanding, there was no safer place for her than beside Vin. As long as Alrion didn't get too far away from the others, she would be safe.
oh,
Yeah.
the dramatic irony is working very nicely.
Yes.
Very
Good.
nicely done.
Yeah. It was a quiet group that stood atop the wall with him, and for once Breeze barely touched their emotions. Their solemnity seemed appropriate. The young Captain Demio stood beside the aging clubs, and the peaceful Sazed stood with Ham the warrior. Together they watched the seed of hope they'd cast to the winds. Do you think Demio should have gone with them?
Nah, he's too much of a priestly leader at the moment in the city.
Yeah,
It would be too much of an abandonment thing. Although I think he's a useful soldier, but yeah,
yeah,
he's he's committed to the people there.
I think so. Yeah, he's got a good function as captain.
Yeah, and he's also there to keep hope and faith in Vin
Yeah,
as a religious sort of leader.
yeah. Wait, Breeze said, frowning as he noticed something. Wasn't Tindwyl supposed to be with them? Sazed shook his head. She decided to stay. Why would she do that? Breeze asked. Didn't I hear her babbling something about not interfering in local disputes? Sazed shook his head. I do not know, Lord Breeze. She is a difficult woman to read. And that's more or less when I had imagined that scenario of her just
Mhm.
like, I'm not leaving you. I'm not doing it, Sazed.
So that wouldn't be difficult to read at all.
No,
That she just says. So it's quite ironic.
a little bit, but it's more like Sazed would have expected her to probably want to go, not to
Mm,
stay. I think he probably
mhm,
gets the reasoning. It's just that he didn't
mhm.
expect it to be so
Yeah, he
fervent.
didn't. Mm,
But we'll never know because we don't have that scene. Sanderson, if you listen to
yeah.
this podcast, please write us that scene.
He's probably written it somewhere. Maybe it's on the website. It's
Honestly,
in
yeah.
his head.
She is a difficult woman to read. They all are, Clubs muttered. Sazed smiled.
I appreciated that.
I
As a
agree.
woman, I appreciated that. Mm.
In any case, it appears our friends have escaped. May the survivor protect them, Timio said quietly. Yes, may he indeed, Sazed said. Clubs snorted, resting one arm on the battlements. He eyed Sazed with a gnarled face. Don't encourage him. Demille flushed, then turned and walked away. What was that about? Breeze asked curiously. The boy has been preaching to my soldiers. I told him I didn't want his nonsense cluttering their minds. It is not nonsense, Lord Cledent, Sazed said. It's faith. Do you honestly think that Kelsier is going to protect these people? Sazed wavered. They believe, and that is— No, Clubs interrupted, scowling. That isn't enough, Terraceman. These people fool themselves by believing in the survivor. And at this point, I'm like, oh shit, Clubs is letting loose, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, yeah, and I want Sazed to be challenged in this way, because I just want to see how he deals with it. It's not like, oh, Sazed is wrong, but I want this conversation to happen. And yeah, Clubs also gets a bit of information on himself in
Hmm.
this fight, basically.
Yeah. You believed in him, Sazed said. Breeze was tempted to soothe him to make the argument less tense, but Sazed already seemed completely calm. You followed him. You believed in the survivor enough to overthrow the final empire. Club scowled. I don't like your ethics, Terishman. I never have. Our crew, Kelsier's crew, fought to free this people because it was right. Because you believed it to be right, Sazed said. And what do you believe to be right, Terishman? That depends. There are many different systems with many different worthy values. Clubs nodded, then turned as if the argument were over.
I love that he nods as if the argument's over. That's very Clubs, just like, yeah, okay, fine. I'm not even gonna.
I win.
That's what I expected you to say. I expected you to say that, and that is enough for me. I don't need to argue. And then obviously Ham. Okay.
Yeah. Wait, Clubs, Ham said. Aren't you going to respond to that? He said enough. His belief is situational. To him, even the Lord Ruler was a deity because people worshipped him, or were forced to worship him. Aren't I right, Terrisman? In a way, Lord Claydent, though the Lord Ruler might have been something of an exception. But you still keep records and memories of the Steel Ministry's practices, don't you? Ham asked. Yes, Sazed admitted. Situational, Club spat. At least that fool Demio had the sense to choose one thing to believe in. Do not deride someone's faith simply because you do not share it, Lord Claydent, Sazed said quietly. I don't think that's what Clubs is going for there.
No, your Clubs is going for you don't choose a faith. You seem to not. He's criticizing your lack of faith in one thing, but he's
Not just your lack of faith in one thing, but your willingness to accept into the fold anything, even something as bad
yes,
as the Steel Ministry and the Lord Ruler, and even
yeah.
something as ridiculous as Kelsier, the dandy that I
Hmm.
knew.
Yeah, exactly.
Club snorted again. It's all very easy for you, isn't it? Believing everything, never having to choose. I would say that it is more difficult to believe as I do, for one must learn to be inclusionary and accepting. Eh,
No,
I-
it has its conveniences because you don't have to stick to anything. You can just find the situation, the faith that you need for the situation. It seems a lot easier than holding faith in one thing that might land up with contradictions. That
yeah,
you don't have to. You don't need faith. The only thing you need faith in is that there is an answer. That's very easy comparatively.
yeah, and hot take. Some things we should not be inclusionary and accepting of, like, say, that it's okay to enslave people for 1,000 years.
Mhm.
Maybe don't include that in what you find to be acceptable faith.
Yeah. We don't need cultural relativism here. Okay? We don't need you telling us that it's no, well, it's what the Steel Inquisitors believed, and it's fine.
Yeah. Clubs waved a dismissive hand, turning to hobble toward the stairs. Shoot yourself. I have to go prepare my boys to die. Sazed watched him go, frowning. Breeze gave him a soothing, taking away his self-consciousness for good measure. Don't mind him, Saz, Ham said. We're all a little on edge lately. Sazed nodded. Still, he makes good points. Ones I have never before had to face. Until this year, my duty was to collect, study, and remember. It is still very hard for me to consider setting one belief beneath another, even if that belief is based on a man that I know to have been quite mortal. Ham shrugged. Who knows? Maybe Cal is out there somewhere, watching over us. No, Breeze thought. If he were, we wouldn't have ended up here, waiting to die, locked in a city we were supposed to save.
This made me think of your theory that the god in
Oh, yeah.
in Zane's head was Calcia. It's like, no, yeah, he is watching over us. Yeah, and I think just oh sorry, just before we move on, the why is Sanderson reminding us that Sazed has knowledge of the Steel Inquisitors, the Steel Ministry? I don't know. I guess I'm being Charlie Day about it. Like, are we going to get Marsh coming in, and there's going to be some sort of revelation there? That's why I brought it, but it makes sense in context why he brings it up. It's like you said, you basically support and remember even the tyrannical beliefs.
Yeah, but it's excellent that you brought it up. There's an element here that I hadn't even considered, and that's what does the Steel Ministry have to say about Quan? And what
Mm,
revelations has Sazed come to, or could Marsh help Sazed come to, with regard to that Quan mystery? There
yeah,
could be
because
something there.
yeah, like Marsh is still a factor. We don't know what's happening with Marsh. And remember, the whole rubbing thing was found at the conventicle where the Steel Ministry basically works. So there is some revelation there or something
Yeah,
that knowledge needs to be combined.
yeah.
But we haven't had it because Marsh has just yeeted himself off the face of the planet. Yeah.
Yep. Anyway, I still want to know where that smoke is coming from. Breeze glanced at the Kolos camp. The dark pillar was too centralized to be coming from cooking fires. The tens. Ham shook his head. El said there were only a couple of tents, far too few to make that much smoke. That fire has been burning for some time. Breeze shook his head. Doesn't really matter now, I guess.
Oh, it does matter, I think. But I guess he's just like, oh, either way, we're doomed, so it doesn't really. We don't need to be worried about it. But that is for real. So okay, so it wasn't the tents with like a. They're saying it's not enough, and there's not enough humans to be burnt. So I really don't understand. Are they doing some sort of offering? What are they doing?
Yeah, some kind of like religious ceremony.
Mm,
I don't know. I really liked this passage, this segment,
mm,
this POV, rather.
mm. Yeah.
Really, really well done. Nice flowing of the argument and important topics. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, and we needed to see this side of it. We couldn't have just had them leaving. I wanted to see the crew, seeing them leave, see how they feel.
Yeah. Straff Venture coughed again, curling over in his chair. His arms were slick with sweat, his hands trembling. He wasn't getting better. At first, he'd assumed that the chills were a side effect of his nervousness. He'd had a hard evening, sending assassins after Zane, then somehow escaping death at the insane Mistborn's hands. Yet during the night, Straff's shakes hadn't gotten better. They'd grown worse. They weren't just from nervousness. He must have a disease of some sort. And my mind did, in fact, go immediately to the poison.
Yeah, and did go see that, and I was like, okay. And then I was like, wait a second, is this how he dies? This can't be how he dies.
Yeah.
Like, because then I'm like, well, Zane, what were you just messing around, and you just wanted to poison him later on? You just wanted him to believe he'd escaped, and then you killed him.
Hmm.
So that's what I was thinking. I was wondering if that was the plan of Zane's, and I'm like, yeah, it's pretty insane, but it's lame too.
Yeah. Your Majesty! A voice called from outside. Straff straightened himself, trying to look as presentable as possible. Even so, the messenger halted as he entered the tent, apparently noting Straff's wan skin and tired eyes. My lord, the messenger said. Speak, man, Straff said curtly, trying to project a regality he didn't feel. Out with it! Riders, my lord. They left the city. What? Straff said, throwing off his blanket and standing. He managed to stand upright despite a bout of dizziness. Why wasn't I informed? They passed quickly, my lord, the messenger said. We barely had time to send the interception crew. You caught them, I assume? Straff said, steadying himself on his chair. Actually, they escaped, my lord, the messenger said slowly. What? Straff said, spinning in rage. The motion was too much. The dizziness returned, blackness creeping across his field of vision. He stumbled, catching himself on the chair, managing to collapse into it rather than onto the floor. So it's a little surprising he doesn't consider the poisoned possibility before it got this bad.
Mhm. Yeah, I think I don't know. Maybe he's just caught up on the thing that that Zane could have killed him that night,
Yeah,
and because he hadn't, it must be something else.
that's true. That is
It's
very
just not,
true.
and also he isn't well, so he's probably not thinking very straight either. So yeah, I can see why he would be thinking, or maybe he's also it's cope. He's also hoping that it's just no, I'm just sick. It's fine. I'll be fine.
Send for the healer! The king is sick! No, Straff thought groggily. No, this came too quickly. It can't be a disease. Zane's last words. What had they been? A man shouldn't kill his father. Liar! Amaranta! Straff croaked. My lord? A voice asked. Good, someone was with him. Amaranta! He said again. Send for her! Your mistress, my lord! Straff forced himself to remain conscious. As he sat, his vision and balance returned somewhat. One of his door guards was at his side. What was the man's name? Grent. Grent, Straff said, trying to sound commanding. You must bring Amaranta to me! Now! The soldier hesitated, then rushed from the room. Straff focused on his breathing. In and out. In and out. Zane was a snake. In and out. In and out. Zane hadn't wanted to use the knife. No, that was expected. In and out. But when had the poison come? Straff had been feeling ill the entire day before.
My lord?
Amaranta stood at the doorway. She had been beautiful once, before age had gotten to her, as it got to all of them. Disavow!
It does get to us, but you your measure of age is very different.
Childbirth destroyed a woman. So succulent she had been with her firm breasts and smooth, unblemished skin. Your mind is wandering, Straff told himself. Focus! I need antidote, Straff forced out, focusing on the Amaranta of the now, the woman in her late 20s, the old yet still useful thing that kept him alive in the face of Zane's poisons. Late 20s is old.
Oh well, I'm a hag. Of course, my lord.
Amaranta said, walking over to his poison cabinet, getting out the necessary ingredients. Straff settled back, focusing on his breathing. Amaranta must have sensed his urgency, for she hadn't even tried to get him to bed her. He watched her work, getting out her burner and ingredients. He needed to find Zane. She wasn't doing it the right way. And at this point, that one line, I was like, oh, this isn't Zane. This is different.
Mm. This is kind of something completely different. Zane Zane was actually true to his word, and I was also loving the fact that he thinks Zane's alive because yes, I'm still very happy that Zane was killed. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was fun, and yeah, it is quite interesting that he's like, oh, she hasn't even you can see he's kind of out of it because he's like, oh, she hasn't even tried to get me to bed her, and it's like, dude, you are very sick. We noticed. You delusional dude. But yeah.
Straff burned tin. The sudden flash of sensitivity nearly blinded him, even in the shade of his tent, and his aches and shivers became sharp and excruciating, but his mind cleared as if he'd suddenly bathed in frigid water. Amaranta was preparing the wrong ingredients. Straff didn't know a great deal about the making of antidotes. He'd been forced to delegate this duty, instead focusing his efforts on learning to recognize the details, the scents, the tastes, the discolorations of poisons. Yet he had watched Amaranta prepare her catch-all antidote on numerous occasions, and she was doing it differently this time. Good, smart
Ooh,
Straff.
weakness. Yeah, smart strap, but he actually should have known what she's actually like if he watched her so many times. Maybe know how to make it.
I
Why must you
agree.
depend on her?
Would have been a very
Like
smart
oh
move to do that.
yeah, like I focused on her. I need her. Like hmm. yeah, he notices she's doing it wrong. She's doing it differently. So I'm like, okay, so why you've had enough time to learn this? Why does what do you think it's too womanly a thing to do, or yeah, I'm kind of is it it's just a mistake that he's made?
I guess he just had to focus his attention on other things.
Yeah.
No
But
man
this
can do it
one
all.
catch-all antidote. Yeah, but this one catch-all antidote would have been a good idea, but it's true, he's had a lot of stuff on his plate, so he completely thinks of just this Amaranth that she's just always there, takes her for granted, so,
Which
um,
is, it
yeah.
speaks to his hubris.
Mhm, and oh, it's so beautiful what he's getting his comeuppance, essentially.
He forced himself out of his chair, keeping Tin flared, though it caused his eyes to water. What are you doing? He said, walking on unsteady feet toward her. Amaranta looked up, shocked. The guilt that flashed in her eyes was enough confirmation. What are you doing? Straff bellowed, fear giving him strength as he grabbed her by the shoulders, shaking her. He was weakened, but he was still much stronger than she. The woman looked down.
Your antidote, my lord.
You're making it the wrong way, Straff said.
I thought you looked fatigued, so I might add something to help you stay awake.
Straff hesitated. The words seemed logical, though he was having trouble thinking. Then, looking down at the chagrined woman, he noticed something. His eyes enhanced beyond natural detail. He caught a slight glimpse of a bit of uncovered flesh beneath her bodice. He reached down and ripped off the side of her dress, exposing her skin. Her left breast, disgusting to him, for it sagged a slight bit, disavow, was scarred and cut, as if by a knife. None of the scars were fresh, but even in his addled state, Straff recognized Zane's handiwork.
Okay, now with this in mind, considering what he did to Vin, mm,
Oh,
it
yeah.
it's very significant. So he did that
Ugh.
to her because they were doing a thing, and that was part of his relationship with her. And then he goes and does that to Vin when
Yeah.
they have an attack. So
Yeah.
nice,
I don't miss
sexually
Zane.
motivated crime. Yeah,
You're his lover.
it's your fault. You abandoned me once I aged and bore you a few children. Everyone told me you would, but yet I hoped.
Straff felt himself growing weak, dizzy. He rested a hand on the wooden poisons cabinet.
Yet, why did you have to take Zane from me, too? What did you do to draw him off? To make him stop coming to me?
You let him poison me, Straff said, falling to one knee.
Fool! He never poisoned you, not a single time, though at my request he often made you think that he had. And then each time you ran to me, you suspected everything Zane did, and yet you never once paused to think what was in the antidote I gave you.
Well said. Also, this woman's
Hmm.
pretty crazy too, but well said.
Yeah, she is crazy, right? She's like, no, you didn't love me, so I'm gonna go with your son, and then you took the son from me as well, and he so clearly he like stopped sleeping with her, and she felt neglected. So yeah, she's just really ruined by these men.
Yeah, this also isn't totally different from something that happens in Dune.
Hmm.
Well, it was roughly in the beginning and again in the middle part, so I think you'd have gotten to it by now, Kitty. But
Hmm.
for the part in the beginning when Baron Harkonnen essentially addicts his mentat to the spice, and he's like, "I could stop giving you spice. I've basically been poisoning you, and I'm giving you antidote. And if I withhold
Hmm.
that, you're gonna have a bad time. So you can't betray me." So there's a little bit of that going on here, which I think is neat.
But the thing that's driven it here is just craziness.
Yes,
It's just like it's very emotional. It's not about the bigger picture and kings and queens and whatever. It's more like this man hurt
spurned
me. I'm going
lover.
to do something. Yeah,
It made me better, Straff mumbled.
that's what happens when you're addicted to a drug, Straff. When you get it, you feel better. When you don't get it, you die.
Straff closed his eyes. Well, now hold on a second. I think if you're addicted to alcohol and you
Hmm.
regularly consume large quantities, you can die from the withdrawals. And
Withdrawal, yeah.
I think that's the same for the harder drugs as well.
Oh, yeah. That's why, yeah, that's why those clinics will not just make you go cold turkey. They have to try and wean you off in certain circumstances because you will die if you're addicted enough.
Yeah. So this suggests to me that whatever she had him on, he was on some pretty hardcore stuff.
hmm And very regularly. Hmm.
Yeah.
That's why she kind of needed Zane to act like he's poisoning her. He's being poisoned, like he's poisoning his dad. She used Zane to do that so that there's always a need for this antidote, which is also an addiction.
Yeah.
It's clever, and and
Hmm.
of course, I just love that it's his hubris that got him into
Yeah.
this because he didn't think about. He's a very suspicious man. He knows everybody's out to get him, but he just completely discards the idea of a woman being scorned and a woman doing this or anything. He even knows that Zane is the only threat, but he doesn't even think about this woman over here. She could be hurt by what I've done, and she is a liability because I've wronged her. He
Hmm.
doesn't even think that doesn't even cross his mind.
Yeah. Straff closed his eyes.
You're mine now, Straff. I can make you.
Straff bellowed, gathering what strength he had and throwing himself at the woman. She cried in surprise as he tackled her, pushing her to the ground. Then she said nothing, for Straff's hands choked her windpipe. She struggled for a bit, but Straff weighed far more than she did. He'd intended to demand the antidote, to force her to save him, but he wasn't thinking clearly. His vision began to fuzz, his mind dim. By the time he regained his wits, Amaranta was blue and dead on the ground before him. He wasn't certain how long he'd been strangling her corpse. He rolled off her toward the open cabinet. On his knees, he reached up for the burner, but his shaking hands toppled it to the side, spilling hot liquid across the floor. So, wow. Drug induced or lack of drug induced murder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just completely out of it murder. Oh no, Straff's such a baddie. No, I get it.
Yeah, I'd say she was playing a dangerous game.
hmm And I think he's going to get out of this. It's going to take a toll, but I think
Hmm.
he is going to get out of it.
Yeah. Cursing to himself, he grabbed a flagon of unheated water and began to throw handfuls of herbs into it. He stayed away from the drawers that held the poisons, sticking to those that held antidotes, yet there were many crossovers. Some things were poisonous in large doses, but could cure in smaller amounts. Most were addictive. He didn't have time to worry about that. He could feel the weakness in his limbs, and he could barely grab the handfuls of herbs. Bits of brown and red shook from his fingers as he dumped handful after handful into the mixture. And there I'm like, whoa, Straff, what you're doing could maybe be a bit more dangerous.
But yeah, yeah, you're gonna go on some sort of crazy trip and die. But he's not thinking clearly. And I'm like, he could at least think about what he remembers of her doing this antidote and try
Hmm.
and think about those things. But because his mind is hardly there at the moment, he's just like stumbling over things and whatever. I think he's gonna have to rely on luck on this thing being there in there.
How
Yeah.
long does it take for withdrawal symptoms to kill? That's something I don't know.
It would have to depend. It would depend on how severe the withdrawal itself is and what the drug itself is. So, I
Gosh.
mean, he could just be going through, like, it doesn't just kill you immediately. Like, you go through waves of it, it seems.
Yeah,
I don't know.
because I'm
I don't know.
wondering
I
what
haven't
uh,
been addicted.
because the way this is all written makes me feel like he's going to die in minutes type of a thing. But it, like if he doesn't like
hmm
overly stress himself, I don't.
hmm
He was like he just thought he was sick with the flu at the start of the
hmm
chapter. So it's like, why couldn't you send for as many doctors as you can find and
hmm
be like, help me figure this out? Yeah, a
Yeah.
reward to the best
And
doctor you can find.
Yeah, and like he's just been. I think it's just because of the fear that she's put in him that
Hmm.
he's like you. She's like you die, and it's like actually he's probably going to pass out and wake up a bit later, and because his body's fighting it somehow or whatever. Like he's not necessarily about to die, but he's not going to let that happen. He's not going to let himself just become unconscious. So he's desperate and adding all kinds of things. Yeah.
He's also probably afraid to be passed out, because why wouldn't people
Hmm.
go in and kill the tyrant when they have the opportunity?
Yeah, he's already upset about his men having seen him all wan and sick.
Yeah,
That one guy. So he's like, he just needs to look good and be back to normal again.
yeah.
Now he knows what it is. So yeah, but she has properly put him in a very fearful place. So
Hmm.
he's panicking, and I think Luck will just have to. He'll somehow survive.
Yeah. One of these was the herb that she'd gotten him addicted to. Any one of the others might kill him. He wasn't even sure what the odds were. He drank the concoction anyway, gulping it down between choking gasps for air, then let himself slip into unconsciousness.
I don't think he has. I don't think he has a choice there. But sure, you let it happen, Straff.
Well, good chapter. As I predicted last chapter, I think that this will be the last we see of Elend and Vin, at least until maybe the epilogue or something. I think everything we hear from now on will be the crew.
I hope not. I hope it's more like something like you said before, where they read the book or something like that. I hope we get that. Like we get more.
We'll see. We're
Hmm.
getting pretty darn close to the end, and
Yep.
we've also got like 4 or 5 blind blinds lined up at some point in the future. So we're really going to be barreling through the last bit.
Hmm.
It's very
We
exciting.
have 10 chapters left. We have 10 chapters left and the epilogue.
Yep.
So, yep.
Thank you all for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week. Subscribe to That Darn Kitta if you get a chance, because she's got a great channel. And we'll see you next time. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Goodness, bye.